Control levels. How much control do you need to have in your area at your level? It just depends. We've already talked about the aspect of span of control. How wide is it? The tasks are routine. You'll have the ability to go and handle a larger span. It depends what you have. But if you also have a wider span of control when you have low employee interdependence. Have an employee that can do their work without even being affected by the people that are around them. They're all independent. That helps a lot. So it depends what you have, but really it is about how much you have. And it also it's this thing called tall versus flat structures. As companies grow, a lot of times you end up building these hierarchies. You have a supervisor of the employees. Then as you get bigger, then you have a CEO, and the CEOs over the supervisors, and then the supervisors are over the employees. And then you need more people, so you get bigger, you have more employees, more supervisors, then you have a group leader, and then you have a vice president, and then you have another vice president, and then you have a president. And then eventually you get bigger and bigger. So you keep on growing taller and taller by stacking levels of management on top of the employees. The problem is that with tall hierarchies, sometimes the people at the top, they kind of lose focus as to what's at the bottom. If you take out some people in the middle, all of a sudden there's no communication. You have higher overhead costs because the people at the top, guess what? They want to get paid more money because they think they're worth it more than the average person. Psst, if I'm up there, I want to get more money too. As a matter of fact, if I'm down there at the bottom, I want more money too. Everybody wants more money. Anyway, so they have higher overhead costs. And a lot of times with tall hierarchies, it really undermines the ability of employees to feel they own their job. Their job, I got to do what the boss says, and he doesn't know what he's doing. His boss doesn't know what he's doing. Nobody knows what they're doing. And I'm over here. I just wish that somebody would know what they're doing to tell me what to do on a regular basis. They keep on changing the rules and everything else. That is a problem. There's a lack of communication the taller the organization, and it just depends where it's at. On the flat organizations, when you have that, typically a flat organization, decentralized, remember we talked about centralization versus decentralization, of the organization, the more is required for the employees to interact with the customer and to make more decisions. As a result, you have better decisions that affect the customer, but you also have a lot of customized decisions, and that becomes a problem. So we talk about the different aspects of what's going on. Centralization, you centralize your formal decision-making aspect of it. And as soon as you keep on centralizing it, you'll have all kinds of the ability to control costs much better. You'll have uniformity of decisions. You'll have a central warehouse to make decisions, but things will start to slow down because people need time to process things, because they want to make certain that they have time to go to lunch with each other and everything else. Well, the people out over here are waiting, and the work backs up. The problem with centralization, once again, you get a few people making decisions, and sometimes they don't move fast enough or realize the urgency of a decision or what's going on in the real world, and they live in this world without communicating or touching the real activities what the employees are doing. A lot of times firms will decentralize, try to pushing that level of centralization away and make it more flexible for the people that deal with the customers themselves. So you'll see this expand, and organizations will change like that over the years. But if you stay long enough in the same company, you'll see that every 7 to 10 years, it's almost like clockwork. Something kicks off, a new person comes in, they're going to decentralize it, we're going to be so much more. And then that person lasts X number of years, and all of a sudden they're gone. So it just depends what you're doing. A formalization, the degree to which you standardize behavior through rules, procedures, formal training, related mechanisms. If you have a highly formalized organization, you'll have a procedure manual this thick, and then you have a policy manual, and then you'll have a practice manual. Let's see, how does it work? Policies, yes, policies, you define a big, broad category. And then procedures is a lot more detailed than a policy. A policy talks philosophy, and then a procedure. And then from a procedure, the department may have practices. Oh, let's see. Let's do a human resource policy. Okay, we need to have 7 people on all hiring committees, and sometimes you had to put a cap on it. Let's put a cap on it. Let's put 24 people on a hiring committee. 24 people? Really? Yeah, it just depends on the department. Okay, so you roll your eyes, that's the policy. The procedure is people fill out the application, and they must and it must be signed at all times. If it is not signed, it will be rejected from the candidates pool. Okay, so you got that. And then you got the practices of, okay, for every candidate that comes in for an interview, a personal interview, make certain you tape the questions onto the table so nobody steals it. So you have different levels of policy. And all of a sudden now you go from hiring somebody to a 5-page policy, a 7-page procedure, and 3 pages of practices. All of a sudden now it's a gigantic thing. And if you don't do it exactly right, you didn't do it exactly right. You missed point number 7 on page 4. Don't do that again, or we'll fire you, because you need to pay attention to that point. And also remember to do the other 75 points in here, or you'll be fired. Seriously, it does get that bad because of the high formalization. If you have a giant book of policies and a bigger book of procedures and another book of practices, the 3 Ps, which are the enemies of almost everybody that hates Ps, okay, then you'll have a problem with formalization. So it undermines creativity, because one person sat down once upon a time and thought it was a good thing. They wrote this 75 years ago. You're still following it today. It drives you really crazy. A lot of this really comes down to a mechanistic versus organic structures. Mechanistic is, it must always be done exactly the same. Do it this way. Do not do it this way. You must do it only this way. In our burger place, you must sit down there and cook the burger for at least 90 seconds on this side. And then you take the spatula, you slide it underneath the burger, and then you flip the burger over here. Flip the next one also. Cook burgers 12 at a time. Seriously, there are procedures, and it's very mechanistic. You must do it exactly like this. All of a sudden, you're a programmer. Okay, create a program to do this. How do I do that? I hired you to sit down and decide that. You code it yourself. I'm not coding it for you. Okay, that's very organic. So you have a mechanistic structure versus an organic structure. So this is highly rigid, no changes whatsoever. And I'm not certain we want that. When we go into a restaurant here in California and you see the same brand over on the East Coast and you're in a New England state, you really want to walk in and get the same type of product. I don't want to have that person behind the counter experimenting with the food. I want what I want when I want it. That's the part of the beauty of the mechanistic structure. On the organic, you may have all kinds of creativity and something totally different. It just depends. You also have, okay, if you're decentralized, you have a better time of being more creative, and is much more decentralized. You have a more organic structure, and the formalization will also be low. You'll see these 3 things as you go through an organization. It depends where it's at. Sometimes you'll have different ways of, some areas are very mechanistic and some are organic. You don't want to have creative accountants. You want to have turn out the same type of sheets on a regular basis. You don't want to have this guy doing the P&L statement over here and this one being creative. I thought it would add a couple more things in the P. No, you want to have a statement that's very concise and can pass muster by the CPAs when they come in to do their annual audit. Yes, mechanistic. You don't want to have creative accountants. You want them to follow the procedure and the process. But in marketing, yes, be very creative. So you'll have different things in the same organization. So control levels, span of control, organic versus mechanistic, formality and flexibility, tall versus flat, decentralization versus centralization. You have a lot of tools to create the organization that you think is best. And the tools here that we're talking about are control levels for your organization. Take care.